What's up, guys? The Senate back with a new video, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and as you can probably tell, I got a new mic. I saved up a lot for it. Not really. I basically just asked my dad to buy it, but enough of that. So, as you can probably tell from the title of the video and the thumbnail, I really love the prequels. I wouldn't say that I love them as much as the original trilogy. The original trilogy is something that I'm always going to hold dear to my heart until I basically get oofed. Why, you ask, though? Mostly just because, I'm a young kid. I grew up with these films, and I'm not going to try and change your opinion on them, but I would at least like to maybe show you why I think they're pretty good films. But as with all things, nothing's perfect, so I will be honest with you guys and tell you things that I don't like about the movies, like the specific movie, like stuff that I don't like about that movie. So, I guess, basically just to put you in my shoes. You're 5 years old. It's 2008, 3 years after the supposed end of Star Wars, because nobody thought the sequels, which I've only seen one and I loved it, so I love all the Star Wars movies I've seen. You just watch those several times. You get, you reenact the fight scenes, you make short films and wrote stories, you love the prequels. This is all, what I've done. And while I agree there's some dumb stuff in the prequels, there's dumb stuff in Star Wars in general. It's just a dumb series. There's just dumb shit in it all the time. Obviously, in the prequels, it's a little bit more dumb. In the original trilogy, is less dumb, but it's just got dumb writing. All of Star Wars does. All of Star Wars has dumb stuff. It's just, it's not a science fiction franchise. It's more like a space fantasy, as most people call it. I know a lot of people don't like these movies because they're, mediocre, boring, cringy, or, in case of Phantom Menace, a disappointment. But you heard the first 5 words I've said. I love the prequels a lot. It's actually 6 words. I'm counting it as 5. To me, it's just an enjoyable experience, but I gotta start off talking about Phantom Menace. Somehow. It's not a prequel video until I talk about them, so I'll be going through what I like and dislike, basically, like I said before. So, we're starting off with the 1999 disappointment, The Phantom Menace. So, we're on to the one that's probably the most mixed. A lot of people think it's either the worst or the second best. I've not heard a lot of people say it's the best. I've just heard people say it's either better than Attack of the Clones or worse than Attack of the Clones. Basically the only 2 opinions you can have with that. I can without a doubt confidently say that it's the second best prequel. I don't like the love stuff in Attack of the Clones. It just eats up a lot of time, but when it's not the romance, it's a pretty decent movie. But back onto the Phantom Menace. Some things that I do like. That I legitimately like. I love Obi-Wan. You ask any prequel hater one good thing about the prequels, they either say the lightsaber fights or Obi-Wan. Everybody loves Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is the best character ever. He's played so phenomenally well by the one and only Ewan McGregor. He's an actual, badass. He has an arc. He goes from a, Padawan that just wants to fight to a very, calm Jedi Master by the end of the trilogy. He has a lot of growth, which is not, there's not much growth for characters in the prequel trilogy to begin with, so having someone that you see grow throughout 3 movies, along with Anakin, is really nice to see. Uh, he just, like, he cares about everyone. He's the Padawan to Qui-Gon. And he kind of has, like, an arc in the Phantom Menace, kind of. Like, he goes from wanting to fight to, like I said, being really calm and wanting to, like, train Anakin. Because it's Qui-Gon's dying wish. And I'd say that probably Qui-Gon dying is possibly the biggest thing that happens to Obi-Wan's character, besides Anakin turning to the dark side. Because if you really think about it, Qui-Gon dying means that Obi-Wan trains Anakin because it's his dying wish, and training Anakin means he turns to the dark side. He could have easily been like, nah, I don't want to train Anakin. Someone else would have trained him. Anakin may have turned out different. And not to mention that Obi-Wan as his, like, force powers and, like, how cool he is, he had basically no force knowledge ever. Like, no force knowledge ever. He wasn't, like, gifted with the force like Anakin. He started from scratch and trained with Qui-Gon, and that's something that, like, you kind of don't really know if you just watch the movies, but if you read some of the other stuff, then you'll figure that out. The second thing that I loved in Phantom Menace is Qui-Gon. He's obviously played by Liam Neeson. Qui-Gon's like an older mentor figure to Obi-Wan, kind of like how Ben Kenobi was like a mentor figure to Luke in the original trilogy. And it's not much I could say, because I kind of delved it in when I talked about Obi-Wan, but I think that Qui-Gon is a very cool character. I think he's played excellently, and he's just really damn good. Like, he's only in one movie, but he's a fan favorite Jedi to some people. A lot of people really like Qui-Gon, and I love Qui-Gon. He's really badass. So who wouldn't like him? Third thing I love is I love the use of practical effects in the score. I'll delve into the score, or music, as most people call it, a little bit later, but as far as the practical effects, I love the use of them. There's CGI in a few shots, and it looks a little dated sometimes, but I mean, you gotta keep in mind that this is a 21-year-old movie. There's movies that now look kind of bad. I can't give you really any examples, but you just kind of have to know what I'm talking about. There's some movies that don't look good, even if they have a really high budget, because CGI is something that you have to do well in order for it to look good. That's really all I can say. Like, I love the practical effect with the bigger fish and the Naboo core. It's pretty much all a practical effect, I think. I'm pretty sure. Like, obviously the full body shot is CGI, but I'm pretty sure any of the headshots aren't CGI. I'm pretty sure those are, like, puppets or practical effects of something. And delving back into the music, this goes without saying. It's composed by John fucking Williams. It's like, if John Williams wasn't composing the music, I don't think a lot of scenes would have worked. Qui-Gon's death wouldn't be as sad if John Williams didn't do the music for it. Order 66 wouldn't be as tragic. Anakin's immolation, I think I'm saying that right, when he burns, and then Obi-Wan is telling him that he was the chosen one. He was supposed to destroy the Sith. That would have not worked had John Williams just knocked it out of the park with that score. I can't show any of the music because YouTube will hang me. Can't show any clips either, so I'm just going to probably show like some still images of what I'm basically talking about. For the last thing about Phantom Menace, I for the last thing I love about it is I love the pod race scene. I love the first like hour of the movie, and then I love the last 30 minutes. So that basically gives you like that kind of 30-minute after they leave Tatooine and before they get back on Naboo to fight Darth Maul and like take over the Trade Federation. I think it's dumb that a 9-year-old boy blew up a whole separatist ship by himself, but I mean, they're all dumb. I mean, it's a little dumber than most things Star Wars did, so you know what? I will give it that it's probably something I would dislike. So I guess you can just take that into consideration when I talk about stuff I dislike, which I'm going to talk about now. Stuff that I didn't really like. Jar Jar, Anakin. Very obvious picks. I don't mind Jar Jar. I think the movie could have done without him. But I mean, like, he doesn't ruin the movie like most people say he does. He's just kind of annoying. That's really all he does. But he has one good scene. One good scene. I like how his panicky nature plays off of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's calm nature when they are going through the Naboo core. I like how he freaks out and then the Jedi are just calm. I really like how that just plays, like they just bounce off each other really well. Anakin, on the other hand, he needed to be played by another actor. It's sad because, like, he has legitimately good writing at times. It's just his delivery on dialogue. It's not the best. One of the best lines is not even, like, it's not a good line because of how Anakin says it. It's a good line because what Qui-Gon says in return. It goes something along the lines of, what, nobody can kill a Jedi. And then Qui-Gon furthers it with, I wish that were so, which is foreshadowing two things in my mind. It foreshadows that Qui-Gon dies eventually, and then it also, I think, foreshadows Anakin eventually slaughtering Jedi during Order 66. But that's really only the problems I have with Phantom Menace, like that 30-minute in between the last 30 minutes and them leaving Tatooine. I don't like that. It's quite boring because it's just Senate meetings. I do like Anakin talking to Yoda, though, in the Jedi Council. I think that's a really good scene. Minus the puppet. The puppet looks like butthole. But if you get the Blu-ray, which nobody would because these movies are not loved by a lot of people, but if you get the Blu-ray, CGI Yoda and Phantom Menace. Don't have to deal with that ugly-ass puppet. So, that's basically my thoughts on Phantom Menace. It's a pretty good movie. It's not great. It's not amazing. It's not terrible or bad like most people say. If I were to give this a score out of 10, I would say maybe a 7? I'd say a 7 is fair, because all the original trilogy to me is just 10s across the fucking board. Like, it's illegal to go to 11, but I'll say they're 11 out of 10. Even Return of the Jedi, I know that's not a common opinion, but hey, they are all three amazing movies, and I will love them till the day I die. I'll never give up on those movies. The prequels, they've kind of have a few missteps that bring it down, but they've got a lot of good in them, which I think a lot of people fail to see. And they're just really good at times, and a lot of people just look at the bad and don't look at the good, which I think is unfair, because I can't think of a movie that I've seen or heard about that is all bad. There has to at least be one good thing you like in any movie. I can't think of a movie that is so bad nothing's good about it. Like, not a single thing. If you try really hard and think and there's not a single thing, I don't think I've ever seen a movie or heard a movie like that. But I think that's the problem a lot of people have with the prequels, is they just look at the bad, and there is quite a bit of bad, but there's a lot of good too. So, I'm just going to end it off with I think Phantom Menace is just pretty good. 7 out of 10. Up next, we are talking about Attack of the Clones. Everyone hates this one. It came out before I was born, obviously, 2003, 2002. But I will talk about it in the same formula that I did Phantom Menace. So, I guess I'll talk about the stuff that I love. Starting with... First things that I want to start off with that I love about Attack of the Clones is Anakin's character change and arc. I like how he changes from, like, an innocent little kid to a person who obviously has dark side tendencies because he's slaughtered a whole town full of life. Doesn't matter what they did, that's still, it's still evil. I like how he's played by Hayden Christensen. I haven't seen Hayden Christensen in much, but he's a really good actor when he's not talking. He can convey emotion through facial expressions so well sometimes. It's honestly, like, shocking because a lot of people say that he's one of the worst parts about the prequels, but if he's, like, not talking, he is really good. He, anytime, like, he's just not talking, he's good. I can't stress that enough. He's such a good actor. Obviously, you gotta be giving it, like, 150% to get through George Lucas's script and sound at least somewhat smart. So, don't at me, please. But, like, the love dialogue just doesn't work. He's whiny. He complains that Obi-Wan is holding him back. He's, like, just jealous. He's just in love with Padme, and he's mad that he can't do anything about it. But you can so tell that he just wants to. I like the new added characters like Count Dooku and Jango Fett and the bounty hunter Zam Wesell, I think is her name. They're all really good characters. I also like that Mace Windu's used a little bit more. He wasn't really used that much in The Phantom Menace. I like how Yoda's used a lot more as well. I just like the new additions and how much it goes off of The Phantom Menace. Going back to Count Dooku is played by Sir Christopher Lee, rest in peace, who mysteriously, no matter how long he's on screen, can always outclass everybody that he's on screen with. I don't know, it's like his special, like, superpower. He just like, steals the show for every scene he's in, no matter who he's up against. Now, I also like Jango Fett. Jango Fett is a badass bounty hunter, the father of Boba Fett, obviously. His silver and blue armor is a highlight of, obviously, him. I think that's one of the things that the original trilogy did kind of wrong, was they didn't really do Boba Fett that well because he just wasn't in it that much. And Jango Fett wasn't used that much either, so I would have liked to see him a little bit more. Even if he was just in the movie more, that'd have been really nice. Because he's actually a legitimate good part of the prequels. A lot of people can also agree on that. Obi-Wan, of course, he's always good. Like, you can't go wrong with Obi-Wan. He's just funny. He's played so well by Ewan McGregor. Once again, the banner between them is just so, like, when it happens, it makes me so giddy. And then it makes me sad because I realize that Anakin will eventually turn into Darth Vader. It's just kind of one of those things that it's a love-hate thing. You love it because it happens, but you hate it because it leads to something bad. Now, those were the things I loved. I may get in a little bit more later, but for things that I didn't like or they could have done a little bit better was like Anakin's character in some aspects. Like I said, the dialogue is not that good, but he does make good facial expressions. He conveys emotion really well, like I've said before. He just feels a little like dry and like his performance isn't bad, it's just kind of bland. It feels like sometimes. It just feels bland and a little like he's almost half asleep sometimes. I don't know. I can't really explain it. You just kind of have to like look at some clips or something, but he feels like he doesn't want to be there sometimes, which I get. I really wouldn't want to. Never mind. Obviously, the love subplot, like, everybody hates this so much. I think it eats up way, way, way too much screen time. It takes at least, like, an hour of time up. And it's just so annoying because that hour could have been used for, like, something way cooler. And then it just got made to have Anakin and Padme get together so they can get married and then have Luke and Leia. That's like probably the most important part of the movie other than the Clone Wars at the end. So that's really all I can say. Like they also underused Count Dooku way, way too much. He's played well, but, like, he doesn't come off as threatening in any of it. Like, in any of the Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. The only time he really comes off as threatening is when he hurts Obi-Wan and cuts Anakin's hand off, and then he just gets destroyed by Yoda. And then in Revenge of the Sith, when he yeets Obi-Wan, and Anakin gets triggered and, like, beats his butt, so I don't know, he just didn't come off as threatening. Maul kind of did because I'm kind of going back and forth from Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Maul kind of did with, him killing Qui-Gon and, like, almost killing Anakin on Tatooine. But, like, Count Dooku really doesn't do much. He doesn't really kill anybody. I think they could have done, like, that a way better, is show how, like, terrifying and, like, threatening he can be, because, like, he destroys Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan fought Darth Maul, like, and beat Darth Maul and Anakin. So, to show that an 80-something-year-old can beat Obi-Wan, you kind of have to show it a little bit more, like, show how powerful he is. Because, I mean, other than Force Lightning, they don't really show much. Other than that he's a pretty good lightsaber duelist, which you can tell by how he challenges Yoda to a lightsaber duel. Which, by the way, was kind of badass that he did that. Because I would have been shitting my pants running and screaming if I had to fight Yoda. I also think that Jango Fett is underused a lot. He's just so good, but, like, they don't use him enough. And the whole, like, plot where it's like, oh, Palpatine wants Padme dead. Palpatine hires Dooku. Dooku hires Jango Fett. Jango Fett hires the bounty hunter. The bounty hunter hires the robot. And the robot hires the fucking worms. Like, it's so convoluted and weird. The plot makes absolutely no sense, but it's at least kind of enjoyable. And I just think that he could have been used a little bit more. Like, just Jango Fett and Count Dooku, and even the bounty hunter, Zam Wesell, could have been used a little bit more. That whole, like, opening sequence is actually really good. Like, I like the speeder, chase. Like, sure, it looks like a damn video game, but I mean, like, it's just so, like, refreshing, and it actually shows off how well computer generated effects were back then. And I will delve into that to the intro of Revenge of the Sith, because a lot of people say that long take at the beginning isn't a long take, and I'm no film expert, but I know what a long take is, and that's a long take. It doesn't have to be completely organic and no CGI. You can have a complete CGI long take. We've seen it in Disney movies, and people, I mean, I can't really give you any links to any videos, but I know there was one video explaining how, like, a CGI long take would work, and it was like some kind of I don't think it was a Disney movie, but it was some sort of movie like that. Anyway, they could explain it way better than my dumbass can, so yeah, that's basically all I really have to say. It's got some good in it, but it's also got some bad in it. I'd say it's got a few better things than Phantom Menace, but it's also got a few dumber and worse things than Phantom Menace. I would say the few dumber things outweigh the few better things. So I'm going to give it a slightly lower score than I gave Phantom Menace. I gave Phantom Menace a 7 out of 10. I'm going to give Attack of the Clones a 6.5 out of 10. That's all with Attack of the Clones. Now back on to the last prequel movie, Revenge of the Sith. The one everybody likes, and I don't know why, because it just suddenly became a thing to like the prequels. I don't know where it came from, because everybody hated these movies when they first came out, and now they're saying, they're good. I liked them from the start, but how are you going to change your opinion and say that they suck, and then when these new movies come out, say they were good? I liked them, but that don't make any goddamn sense. So, I mean, I've always kind of been puzzled by that, ideal or, thought process, is, how can you like something that you hated before? I don't know, maybe your opinion changed, but, I can't believe that everybody's opinion changed, because there's a lot of prequel haters, but then there's also a lot of prequel lovers, especially with the revival of Star Wars with the sequel trilogy. I just don't understand how that came about, but it's honestly whatever. It's pretty good. It's dumb, but it's entertaining at some parts. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Let's just move on to the one that everybody loves. So starting off with Revenge of the Sith, the first thing I like is the intro. It shows you what George Lucas really wanted to do with the prequels. The whole first 30 minutes of this movie is just amazing. It shows the banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin. It shows how much of a good person Anakin becomes. Obi-Wan, of course, is always good, always great in all the movies. There's some comedic moments with R2-D2. It's got a lightsaber duel. It's not the best, but it's pretty decent. It's got some great choreography, and it's well acted at least. The only problem is the CGI recreation of Lee's face to cover up the fact that he needed a stunt double. So it's a little dumb in that regard. You can see it on screen for a lot of the fight, just blaring in your face, so it's kind of held back by that, but not really all that too much. But his acting's so good, I can kind of let that slide. And talking about the acting, I think the acting in this movie is a major step up from the previous movies. I just wish I could show you guys some clips so bad, because this is just so bad at. The acting is so good. Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, Frank Oz, Ian McDermott especially just knock it out of the park in this movie. Hayden Christensen has some problems, but he's definitely a lot better than he was in Attack of the Clones. I also like, very quickly here, how fast-paced the movie feels. The movie feels like an hour long sometimes, even though it's way past 2 hours. I think it's like 2 hours and 20-something minutes. It's just short of Attack of the Clones. Yet it feels way brisker than that movie, due to bad pacing for that one sometimes. Another thing that I like is the entire last hour. Basically, the entire last hour of the movie is just really brilliant. After, or before Order 66 happens, this movie goes from being great to amazing, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about some specific scenes that I like. I, of course, like the intro, as I've stated before. I like Obi-Wan and Anakin's farewell before Obi-Wan fights Grievous. It really shows that these friends love each other like brothers, and that it's especially sad because this is the last time Obi-Wan sees Anakin before he turns to Darth Vader. I like the Opera House scene. It's, all memes aside, it's really good acted. I think Ian McDiarmid does a really good job here, so does Hayden. It just shows how cunning and how like his mastermind plan just folds out, and you can really tell that he's like, oh yes, Anakin is gonna definitely turn to the dark side in order to save Padme because he loves her. I love that scene so much. Everybody does a great job in that scene, and it visually is very appealing too. It's a very interesting design for a room. The last two battles, to some extent, I really like. I think the Yoda and Palpatine fight ended off a little dumb, because Yoda just gets knocked off and runs away. He doesn't really get injured that much. It just kind of ends, and I think that's kind of a problem with Revenge of the Sith, as you know both battles are going to end in stalemates. But that's a problem with just prequels in general, as you know where characters are going to end up. So that's not a fault of the prequel trilogy, just something that all prequels have. Which is why I'd say prequels are probably the hardest movies to make, because you have to tie it into the movies that come after it. Lastly, I will give you my final thoughts on Revenge of the Sith, but I got two last things to talk about. The memes. The memes are so good. They're so funny. I know it's not a part of the movie technically, but I can't see Mace Windu fighting Palpatine without seeing the memes. They're great. And before I talk about my favorite scene in the whole trilogy, I'd like to talk to you guys about stuff I didn't really like. As stated, the lightsaber battles are not the best. They could have been a little bit better. They aren't Darth Maul fight scene levels good, but they aren't Attack the Clones final battle bad. They're just kind of like in the middle. They're like, I don't know, I can't explain it. They're just like in the middle. They really, some of them have like great moments, but overall they're just decent. There's nothing really too special. Sometimes the acting can be a little bland, especially coming from Christensen. While yes, he has a lot more better directed scenes in this one, he still comes off a little bland, especially when talking to Padme on the balcony. It just seems very like episode 2 kind of romance dialogue. But he is a lot better in this film. I will give him that. He shows a lot more emotion through his facial expressions, and has a lot better dialogue and delivers it a little bit better. I also don't like that Mace's reaction to Palpatine being a Sith Lord is too toned down. He sounds like it's another walk in the park. He doesn't sound like it's urgent when it should be. I just think that his reaction is a little too subtle, calm, and subdued. It's not like, oh my god, this guy's a Sith Lord, we need to stop him at all costs, but he just walks calmly across the hangar. It was a jarring scene. It didn't really work out. I never understood why he was so calm about it. I guess it's the Jedi way, but it just doesn't seem like something Samuel L. Jackson would do. He'd be like crazy and over the top, so that's really the only few gripes that I have. Now to talk about my favorite scene in the whole trilogy. This is one of the most powerful and important scenes in the whole trilogy because it turns Anakin into Darth Vader. It's his, quote, Anakin's fatal decision scene, where he's staring off into the distance and he's crying in torment because he knows that he has to stop Mace from killing Palpatine because that's the only way he thought Padme would live. You can just see like the torment and inner conflict in him. He looks so distressed that he has to make this decision. It's really brilliantly well shot, and the chorus, it's the haunting chorus that always gets me when I see this scene. He's so distressed, and you can really tell he wants to make the better decision and just save the whole Republic, but he just can't because he was born with nothing. All he had was his mom, and his mom had died, and he's throwing it all away. He's throwing everything he ever wanted away, and that's really tragic to see, especially when you know where he ends up. He ends up being Darth Vader, helping someone annihilate planets, and committing like mass genocide on everything. It's just sad to see someone so good-hearted go from that to end up to seeing him become Darth Vader. And I think that's one of the reasons why the prequels to me are still good, is because in basically 3 minutes you have an entire scene that will forever change the entire saga. And it's so subtle, like there's no big conflict or big speech or dialogue. There's barely any dialogue in it. In fact, Palpatine only says something, and it's in Anakin's head. Nothing is said from either Anakin or Padme because it switches perspectives between the two. It's in fact a really good scene, and I think it's the best part of Revenge of the Sith and probably the whole trilogy, because it's just subtle and nice, and it's nice to have a calm scene like that. So, all I can say is that for me, Revenge of the Sith is the fourth best Star Wars film so far. It's right behind Return of the Jedi. Despite Return of the Jedi being my favorite of all the movies, I can see that it's not as well written, but it's my favorite to watch. That, of course, is a discussion for another video. But as far as Revenge of the Sith goes, the movie's action-packed, it's well-acted, brilliantly shot, it's composed, music is so good, it's excellently paced, it barely has any slow or dragging moments, it has a tragic but satisfying end to a whole trilogy, and it really puts it all together nicely in turn for the original trilogy. Now, as far as the trilogy as a whole, I'd say about 70% of the prequels is enjoyable. I'd say like 30 minutes of Phantom Menace and 40 minutes of Attack of the Clones is boring. While there is no minutes that I ever regret watching Revenge of the Sith, I can agree that there are some scenes in the previous two movies that kind of hold the whole trilogy back a little bit. I enjoy all the movies, though. Don't think that I can criticize something that I love. That's why I'm doing this video. I love the series, obviously, and I will never stop cherishing Star Wars, ever. I think it's the perfect franchise because it can literally be anything. It can be like a dumb kids show. It could be an action-packed movie. It could be a heist movie, like a bank heist movie like Solo. It could be a sacrificial movie like Rogue One. It can be literally anything. And I think that's the magic of Star Wars, is you can put it in any genre ever. Well, maybe not a sitcom, but you get my point. If you've got this far, you're a brave soul. You sat through a 16-year-old talk about the prequel trilogy for 40 minutes almost. Please don't crucify me about my opinion, though. I would like to hear your guys's. If you guys have the same one, put it down. If you have a different one, put it down. I will read all of them. I will comment on all of them. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this trilogy. If you think it's complete trash, go ahead and put that. I like to read that stuff because it's nice to know what other people think. I don't like just knowing that I'm the only one that may think this. And I want to thank you also for almost getting me to 100 subs. As of recording, I think I'm at 96, 95. So let's try and get to 100 in the next week or so. That'd be very nice. If you enjoyed, strike the subscribe button with all of your hatred, and your journey to joining the dark side will be complete. Join my empire. Please do it.